about to come. When I come, I rub my dick across her gums. She love me cause I'm all about funds and having fun. Broke her ass for a honey bun. Had to hit me back, she had to.
Temptation. The Obsidian villa glowed under low amber lights, casting long shadows against sleek black walls and glass. Compared to the chaos of the Golden Villa, this one was quieter, smoother, like a slow burn instead of a sudden spark. But the heat here, it ran deeper. Iwaizumi stood out on the balcony, hands braced on the railing, staring out toward the sea. His shirt clung to his back from the humid night air, muscles tight, jaw clenched. The sunset was long gone, but something in him still burned. You keep holding your shoulders like the world's about to fall off them. Came a calm voice from behind. Kita Shinsuke, barefoot, loose linen pants, hair slightly tousled from the wind. He walked up like a storm you didn't see coming until it was right at your door. Iwaizumi didn't look over. I'm fine. You're not. Kita said simply. You're angry, but not just at Oikawa. He stepped behind Iwaizumi, placing his palms, warm, steady, on Iwa's tense shoulders. You're angry at yourself for still giving a damn. Iwaizumi inhaled slowly, his body tensed. Kita didn't flinch. His thumbs began to knead into the knots between Iwaizumi's shoulder blades. The pressure was firm, skilled. He knew exactly what he was doing. You think he doesn't love you enough to stay? Kita murmured, but maybe he's just scared of how much you expect. Iwaizumi's jaw ticked. You don't know anything about us. I don't have to. Kita's voice did. I know what it's like to carry someone else's storms without ever letting yourself feel the rain. His hands moved lower, slow, careful, respectful, but intimate. You're so used to being the strong one. Hajime, he said, breath soft near his ear. Has anyone ever taken care of you? Iwaizumi said nothing, but he didn't move away. Not even when Kita's hand slid under the edge of his shirt to work at the bare muscle beneath. Not even when a low groan slipped from his throat. Unguarded, that's what I thought. Kita whispered. The door slid open again behind them. Sugawara Kaushi stepped out, drink in hand, smile lazy and dangerous. He wore nothing but soft gray sweat slung low on his hips, and a thin tank that clung to him like second skin. Well, he said lightly, either I'm intruding or I'm right on time. Kita didn't pause. His hands never left Iwaizumi. Iwa didn't stop him. You're late, Kita murmured. Sugawara chuckled and walked closer, gaze trailing up Iwaizumi's body like he was studying a map he intended to memorize. You've got a lot of tension, Suga said, setting his drink down and moving behind Iwa's side. Might be dangerous if it doesn't get released. He ran one hand down Iwa's bicep, slow and firm. The other found his lower back, massaging circles. You ever let someone just touch you? Sugawara's voice was like velvet. Not for sex, not for sport, just to make you feel good. Iwaizumi's eyes slid closed. He hated how good it felt, hated how his body softened under their hands like it was starving for this kind of care. You can say stop, Kita said. You won't, Sugawara added, softer, and he was right, because Iwaizumi didn't stop then. Not when Suga's fingers drifted over his spine, not when Kita pressed a palm to his lower stomach to steady him, not even when his breath hitched, and he quietly, finally, whispered, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing anymore. Kita pressed a kiss to his shoulder. Sugawara grinned, but didn't gloat. You're not doing anything wrong, he said. You're just remembering what it feels like to be wanted. And that night, in a villa full of shadows and secrets, Iwaizumi Hajime remembered, and temptation had only just begun. Obsidian Villa, Night 1, Sakusa and Suna. The Obsidian Villa wasn't loud, not in the obvious sense, but to Sakusa Kiyumi, everything about it was too much, too humid, too bright, too full of ice. The cushions weren't aligned, the pool had leaves floating in it, and someone had left their shoes on the wrong step. He sat alone at the edge of the fire pit, drink untouched, jaw tight. He was fine with silence, preferred it, even, but the silence here wasn't peaceful. It was watching him, waiting, like the house itself expected him to crack. Your scowl's gotten deeper, came a slow, unbothered voice behind him. New record. Sakusa didn't need to look. Suna Rintara's voice was unmistakable, lazy, dry, and just bored enough to sound dangerous. Suna dropped down beside him, long legs stretched out, shirt unbuttoned halfway down his chest like this wasn't the first time he'd made someone uncomfortable on purpose. I thought you'd avoid me tonight, Sakusa said flatly. I tried, Suna replied. You looked lonely. I got curious. Sakusa didn't answer. Suna watched him for a moment, sharp eye sliding over his expression, the clenched jaw, the high guard, the rigid body language of someone who lived in armor. You always look like you're bracing for war, Suna said, even when you're sitting still. I prefer preparation to regret, Sakusa replied. Sounds exhausting, Suna said, taking a sip of his drink. Bet it's lonely, too. Sakusa turned to glare. Do you want something from me? Suna grinned. Not yet. There was a pause. The fire crackled between them, casting flickering shadows across their faces. You know, Suna added, more quietly, you can be as put together as you want, but it doesn't change the fact that the person you love just watched you get tempted by someone else, and you watched him pick someone else too. Sakusa's face twitched. Just slightly. Don't act like that didn't crack something, Suna said. Sakusa opened his mouth to reply. He didn't get the chance. Suna leaned in, close enough to brush his knee, close enough to smell the faint sharpness of Sakusa's cologne, and said, you keep people away so they don't see the soft parts. But what if someone already sees them? Sakusa's breath caught. What if someone's already watching, and not scared? His chest rose and fell once, slowly, like he was calculating whether to speak or flee. Suna didn't move. You're used to being needed, he said. But do you know what it feels like to be wanted? No conditions, no expectations, just desire. Sakusa finally turned to him, voice tight. That's not real. Suna tilted his head. It feels real. Then, just as Sakusa was about to shut him down, Suna's hand brushed his wrist, looked Suna dead in his. Sakusa got up and walked away. Obsidian Villa, Night 1. Tendou crashes the scene. Sakusa barely had time to process the touch on his wrist when a voice, sing-song and full of mischief, sliced through the moment like a dagger made of glitter and thorns. Well, isn't this cozy? Tendou Satori appeared from the shadows like a summoned spirit, half-drunk smoothie in hand, robes askew like he'd come straight from a cult-themed pajama party. His eyes flicked between Sakusa and Suna with the precision of a hawk that lived for emotional gore. I just knew the tension between you two was going to snap eventually, he cooed. Though I'll admit, I didn't think you'd break first, Omi-kan. Sakusa tensed immediately. His wrist slipped out from beneath Suna's fingers like it had burned him. I didn't break, he said stiffly. Oh, no, of course not, Tendou said, twirling his straw like a wand. You just sat there and let Rintaro whisper sweet nothings while you blushed like a nun in a lingerie store. I wasn't blushing. You're still blushing, Suna murmured helpfully. Tendou gasped. Oh my god. He is. This is better than cable. Sakusa shot to his feet. Do you enjoy making people uncomfortable? Yes, both Suna and Tendou said at once. Tendou's smile sharpened as he rose too. A little too close, but especially you, Sakusa. You have such a lovely slow unravel, like a ribbon pulled off a very tightly wrapped gift. He circled Sakusa once, then leaned in beside his ear, voice low and sudden. Tell me, are you more scared of me getting under your skin, or inside your head? Sakusa didn't flinch, but he didn't answer either. Tendou pulled back, eyes dancing. God, you're fun. Suna was still seated, legs stretched and completely at ease. He's not as cold as he looks. You know. Oh, I know, Tendou said, eyes back on Sakusa. But he likes pretending, keeps people away. Suna gave a slow smirk. You think he's still trying? Tendou's grin widened into something filthy. Not after tonight. Sakusa exhaled hard, nostrils flaring, eyes dark. He left, but not fast enough to stop Tendou from calling after him. You look good when you're flustered, Sakusa. You should try it more often. And in the firelight, Suna chuckled. Quiet, dangerous, satisfied. Because temptation had its hooks in deep now, and Sakusa Kiyumi was no longer pretending otherwise. Obsidian Villa, Night 1. Bokuto's breakdown. It started with a sniffle, then another, then a full-body hiccuping sob that echoed out across the quiet villa like a dying seal calling for help. Bokuto Kaudara was crumpled into the corner of the patio lounge, knees pulled to his chest, hoodie sleeves damp with tears, and a horrifying amount of snot leaking down his upper lip. He was red-faced, puffy-eyed, and inconsolable, and somehow, still yelling, I love him so much. Hiccup, I love Akashi. He's like Light. My whole damn heart. Sniff. And he's so pretty. And smart. And he makes me eat vegetables. 3 men stood around him with the tentative concern of people who'd been asked to babysit a bear mid-breakdown. Komori had a box of tissues in one hand and a worried crease between his brows. Sugaura was crouched down, gently rubbing Bokuto's back in slow circles. Goshiki was standing frozen, visibly sweating, eyes wide with second-hand emotional trauma. Bokuto-san, Goshiki said nervously. Maybe you just need water. No one understands. Bokuto wailed, throwing his head back dramatically. Akashi is the love of my life. Komori gently dabbed under Bokuto's eye. Okay, big guy, I think maybe we've entered emotional flood stage. Let's breathe. Yeah. Bokuto inhaled, immediately choked, coughed, then sobbed harder. Sugaura tilted his head. You wanna talk about what triggered this? You seemed fine during the bonfire. I saw him laugh. Bokuto wailed. He was laughing with that guy. That freaking Osamu guy. He never laughs like that with me. Goshiki looked at Komori. Who's Osamu? Semi-finalist in Heartbreak. Apparently. Komori muttered. Bokuto wiped his nose on his sleeve, and they were standing so close. Like they were whispering sweet secrets. And I'm here in this stupid villa with all these stupid hot guys and none of them are him. Komori blinked. Did you just call us hot? I didn't mean to. Bokuto sobbed. Sugaura, kind and unbothered as ever, handed him a fresh tissue. You're grieving the emotional closeness. That's valid, but it's also day 1. He's gonna forget me. Bokuto whispered. No. Komori said firmly. He won't. You don't know him like I do. You're right. Komori said softly. But I do know what it looks like when someone won't shut up about the person they love. And you're a walking love letter. Bokuto blinked through his tears. Really? Sugaura smiled warmly. You're not just in love. You're devoted. And that scares you. Goshiki finally moved closer, crouching. Bokuto-san, you don't have to prove your love by not being tempted. Just remember who you are when you're with him. If it's real, it won't go anywhere. Bokuto let out a deep, quivering breath, then hiccuped again. He's my person. You know. They all nodded. Bokuto paused, looked around, then wiped his nose dramatically. And I'm so embarrassed. You should be. Komori said flatly. That was so much snot. I'm gonna die alone. No. Sugaura assured him. You're gonna fall asleep on a lounge chair after eating half a box of cookies and calling Akashi's voicemail 6 times. Goshiki grinned. We'll get the cookies. And just like that, the worst of the storm passed, leaving Bokuto sniffling but quieter, surrounded by 3 very confused but kind-hearted men who realized one universal truth. Obsidian Villa. Night 1. Obsidian Villa. Night 1. Kageyama. The water was up to Kageyama's chin. He sat alone in the corner of the Obsidian Villa's pool, half submerged, knees tucked to his chest, breath steady as he kept just enough of his nose above the surface to breathe. Still, silent, his eyes stared straight ahead, unblinking, like he was trying to hold his entire soul underwater. It was almost like drowning on purpose, and no one disturbed him, until 2 shadows slipped into the pool. Fukutachi moved first, calm and smooth, gliding across the surface like he was born in water. His voice was low when he spoke, deliberate. You always hide like this when it gets heavy. Kageyama didn't look up. Shirabu's voice cut in sharper, from the other side. No, he hides like this when he wants someone to force it out of him. Kageyama's brows twitched, just a fraction. You don't talk about your feelings. Shirabu said, circling him like a shark that smelled blood. That's fine. Plenty of men don't. They just drown in them instead. Fukutachi stopped in front of him, arms resting lazily on the ledge, like he wasn't watching, but he was. Bet your boyfriend loves that. He said casually, silent, closed off, always a mystery, hard to reach. Kageyama's eyes narrowed, but he still didn't speak. Shirabu smirked. Or maybe he got tired of playing therapist to a guy who treats emotions like enemy serves. The silence thickened. Kageyama slowly rose a little from the water, his mouth finally clear. His voice, when it came, was low and flat. Control. You don't know me. Fukutachi tilted his head. Maybe not, but I've known enough people like you. Strong, precise, careful, until someone gets close, and then you clamp down like a vice. I'm not clamping anything, Kageyama said coldly. Then why are you underwater? Shirabu shot back. Why are you sitting here like you're bracing for impact? Kageyama's fists clenched under the surface. You think I don't feel things? You think I don't care? No. Fukutachi said. We think you care too much and don't know what to do with it. Shirabu came closer now, standing chest deep beside him. That bonfire shook you. he said. You saw Hinata smile, and it felt like your whole spine snapped. Kageyama's jaw tensed. And now, Shirabu continued, you're sitting here in the deep end, trying to convince yourself that feeling nothing is better than risking everything. You're scared. Fukutachi added, voice softer now. Scared he might be okay without you. Scared you won't survive it if he is. The word slammed into Kageyama harder than he expected. He let out a slow breath, shoulders slumping. Comet, I hate this, he muttered. Shirabu smiled like he'd just won. Good. Hate it. Feel it, because if you don't, someone else will make Hinata feel everything, and you'll be here, holding your breath like it's a punishment. Kageyama's hands gripped the edge of the pool now. Fukutachi stepped closer, real slow, he said, voice lower now, eyes unreadable. You can do something dangerous for once. Kageyama blinked. What's that supposed to mean? Let someone see all of it, Fukutachi said. Not just Hinata, anyone, even if it gets messy. He didn't move, but the water between them felt hotter. Shirabu's voice came low and smug. You ever wonder what it'd be like to be wanted for what you hide, not just what you show? Kageyama stared between them, wide-eyed and tense, breath ragged like he'd just been hit by a serve straight to the gut. But he didn't run, he didn't snap, he just stood there, water dripping off his skin, face unreadable, and Shirabu leaned in the barest bit closer, whispering just beside his ear, you ever wonder if someone else could make you feel that fire again? Obsidian Villa, Night 1. Kuroo breaks first. The liquor burned less than the silence. Kuroo sat on the black leather of the villa's sleek outdoor sectional, head tilted back, jaw clenched, long fingers wrapped around a half-finished drink that he hadn't tasted in 20 minutes. His shoulders were tense, shirt clinging to him from the humidity, collarbone sharp under the moonlight. He hadn't spoken in a while, but he was listening, watching, feeling every ache of being without, and Daisha Suguru knew it. You always get that look when you're starved, Daisha asked, sliding into the seat next to him like a lit cigarette. Dangerous, slow burning, and impossible to ignore. Kuroo didn't move. What look? Like you're 3 seconds from fucking something or setting it on fire, Daisha said, swirling the amber in his glass. You always this tense? Or is it just because you haven't been touched in a while? Kuroo's jaw ticked. Daisha smirked. That hit a nerve. Shut up, Kuroo muttered. Make me, Daisha said, voice low. Before Kuroo could answer, another voice joined from behind the couch. Voice came Yaku's soft, dangerous lilt. Kuroo turned. The sound was too familiar, and too effective. Yaku was leaning against a column, arms crossed, gaze locked on him with surgical precision. Tell me, Yaku said, stepping forward. How long has it been? Kuroo narrowed his eyes. That's none of your business. Yaku came around the couch, dragging his fingers lightly across the leather as he passed. No, because it looks like it's been what? 3 months. Kuroo stiffened. Yaku smiled like he'd won a bet. Bingo. Daisha leaned back lazily, watching the show. You've always been tactile, Yaku murmured, crouching in front of Kuroo, now between his legs. You crave connection. You get antsy when you don't get it. Kuroo's breath hitched as Yaku's hands brushed his knees. His voice dropped. Don't do this. Why not? Yaku said, voice like silk and gravel. Because Kenma wouldn't like it? Or because you know damn well you would? Kuroo's eyes fluttered shut for half a second. Just one. But it was enough. Daisha leaned forward from the side. I don't mind sharing, he said softly. In fact, I think you could use both of us right now. Kuroo's chest rose, fell, rose again. Too quickly. You don't know what I need, don't we? Yaku whispered, fingers sliding up the inside of Kuroo's thighs, slow enough to give him time to stop it, and dangerous enough to make him question if he even wanted to. Kuroo's hands gripped the edge of the couch. Yaku leaned closer, mouth hovering just by his ear. You're so touch-starved it's driving you insane, he whispered. And the worst part is, you think you're being loyal, but loyalty doesn't mean denying what you are. Daisha slid a hand across Kuroo's shoulder, trailing fingers along his collarbone. You're fire in a cage, Tetsura, let us light you. Kuroo turned his head sharply, to pull away, to say something cruel, to run, but he didn't. He stayed still, breathing heavy, skin burning. Fuck, he muttered under his breath, voice hoarse. This is a bad idea. Yaku's grin was devastating. Oh, baby, that's the point. Yaku tugged at the waistband of his briefs, pulling him free, slow and deliberate. The screen faded to black for a moment, only the sound of crashing waves filling the silence. Then the bonfire flickered back into view, the embers glowing like little devil's eyes in the night. Kiyoko stepped into frame, silhouetted by the firelight, her dark hair catching hints of gold in the flickering glow. Calm, poised, but with a gleam in her eye sharp enough to cut. She gazed out over the empty circle of chairs. Her voice was smooth, steady, and laced with just the right touch of danger. Well, safe to say tonight's bonfire turned up the heat. She moved in a slow circle around the pit, hands lightly clasped in front of her, the flames throwing shadows across her elegant features. We watched bonds fray, trusts snap, and walls start to crumble. Some broke their own rules, some pretended it didn't matter, and some finally realized how alone they might actually be. Kiyoko stopped, turning to face the camera directly, her steady gaze locking on as if daring the audience to look away. But the real question is what happens next. A long, loaded pause. The fire popped behind her, a spark leaping into the night. Can Bokuto fix what he shattered with Akashi? Or is it already too late? Was that comfort Osamu gave so innocent? Or did something else happen behind closed doors? Another step closer, her voice lowering just a touch, intimate and sharp. Will Atsumu and Oikawa's reckless night of partying lead to regret? Or open the door to something darker? And when temptation comes calling again, will they even bother to stop it? A sly, knowing smile curved her lips. And what about Kenma? Is that fury proof of unshakable loyalty, or the start of a total collapse? The fire burned lower now, the last embers painting her expression in copper and crimson. Next time, new dates, deeper temptation, and consequences no one is prepared for. Which of these couples will survive the storm, and which of them are already lost? She held the stare 1 second longer, then gave a quiet, almost conspiratorial smile. Well, turns out heartbreak and temptation aren't just for one side of the island. She paced slowly around the dying fire, the soft sound of waves crashing against the shore behind her. Tonight, we watched loyalty crack, control slip, and maybe, just maybe, the first signs of real regret. Kiyoko turned to the camera, raising a brow, her expression unreadable but undeniably hungry for the mess she knew was coming. So now we have to wonder, after seeing Akashi's moment with Osamu, is Bokuto strong enough to keep his promise, or will a broken heart leave room for someone else to slip in? A slight smirk tugged at the corner of her mouth, and Sakusa, cool, calm, unshaken on the outside. But how long can disappointment simmer before it turns to resentment? Is walking away strength, or is it fear? She let the words linger in the thick air, letting the tension settle. Iwaizumi tried to play it cool, but when comfort comes in the form of lingering hands and whispered words during a massage, is it really innocent, or is something darker starting to unravel? Her gaze sharpened, the flicker of firelight reflected in her eyes, and Kuroo, touch-starved, reckless, vulnerable. Can a man really resist temptation when it comes from both the past and the present? Is it weakness, or was he just waiting for an excuse? The fire gave a sudden, sharp crackle, and Kiyoko's voice softened to a near whisper. And Kageyama, tempted, but careful, for now. But how many more nights will it take before not too far becomes too far? She leaned in slightly, her voice low and dangerous. The games are getting dirtier, the lines are getting thinner, and hearts are breaking faster than they can heal. Who's about to fall next? And who's already lost? The final embers glowed at her back as she gave the camera one last quiet, knowing smile. Next time temptation doesn't ask permission, stay tuned.